everyone, today we're going to take a look at the IXL that was assigned for week 7, lesson 1. As you know, that the multiplication and division with exponents was reassigned from last week. So it's also the exact same link that we worked on during week 6, lesson 2. And so for a majority of these problems, if you want to know how to do ones like this at the beginning, you can view those problems on the YouTube video that was created for week 6, lesson 2, IXL problems. And that will take you all the way up through the SMART score of 0 through 70. So today what I want to focus on is the problems that have more than one variable and that are challenging, the ones that get us from the SMART score of 70 to the SMART score of 80, which is what we're working towards this week. And the big separation between below 70 and above 70 is the fact that these ones have multiple variables, and that what we're learning in this section is that different letters are separate terms, and because they are not like terms, they cannot be combined. And so when I'm working with these on the computer, I'm going to go ahead and use separate colors so that visually we can see that they're different terms. So if I look at this one, I have r to the negative first from here, r to the negative first. And I'm going to combine it with r to the negative first from here. And when we're multiplying those like terms, r to the negative first times r to the negative first, we add those exponents. So it's going to turn into r to the negative 1 plus negative 1. And I'm going to switch my colors to work with the s's. And the s is s to the 7th times s to the 9th. And when we're multiplying my like base, we add the exponents. So that's going to turn into s to the 7 plus 9. So you can see that I'm still working in the numerator, or the top of my fraction. I have not yet gotten to the denominator. I want to finish working in the numerator, or the top of the fraction. R to the negative 1 plus negative 1 is going to turn into r to the negative 2. And s to the 7 plus 9 is going to turn into s to the 16th power. And all of this is over what is in the denominator, or the bottom of our fraction, where it says r to the 7th times s to the 0th power. And so now we have the quotient rule of exponents that tells us when we are dividing like terms, we subtract the exponents. So I'm going to have r to the negative 2 minus 7 and s to the 16 minus 0. And that will get us to our final answer of r negative 2 minus 7 is going to be negative 9, and 16 minus 0 is going to be 16. But now we have to pay very close attention to what the directions are asking of us. It says express your answer using only positive exponents. And right now we have a negative with that r. R is to the negative 9th power. And negative exponents can't exist in the real world because you cannot combine something, or you can't multiply something by itself a negative amount of times. And so what happens is we can actually take it and move it to the opposite side of the fraction bar, and it's going to become positive. So that r to the negative 9th is going to move to the bottom. It's going to become r to the positive 9th. And on top, that 16 was already positive, so s to the 16th can stay up there. Then we can go ahead and put in our final answer here. Where we have s to the 16th power all over r to the 9th power. So now we have a similar one, just with different numbers. I'm going to do the same thing where we work in the numerator and then the denominator. I have m to the 8th power times n to the negative 1st. All of this is over m to the negative 8th times m to the 0th. M to the negative 8 plus 0. Well, if I add 0 to negative 8, it's still going to stay negative 8. So rather than writing out plus 0 just to find that it goes back to negative 8, I think we can all agree that when you add 0 to something, it does not change. So that m is going to stay negative 8. And then we have to look at these n's. Well, this is n to the 0th power times n to the 0th power. And that's going to turn into n to the 0 plus 0. And if I add 0 plus 0, my answer is going to be 0. And anything to the 0th power is 1, but I can go ahead and write that out, that my final answer would be n to the 0th power. Now I can go ahead and use the quotient property to work with what needs to be divided. So if I look at my m's here first, I have m to the 8 minus negative 8. And I have n to the negative 1 minus 0. Negative 8, or sorry, 8 minus negative 8 is going to turn into 8 plus 8. That double negative becomes a positive. And so we have m to the 16th power. And then n to the negative 1 minus 0 is going to stay n to the negative 1. But our directions tell us to have only positive exponents. While negative exponents don't like where they're at, they move to the opposite side of the fraction bar and they become positive. So my final answer is going to be m to the 16th power all over n to the 1st. So I can go back here and type that in. M to the 16th over n. We're going to keep working through these, using different colors to symbolize the different letters. This one's a little bit harder now because it has 3 separate terms that we're going to work through. So we have f to the 0th power, so that's f to the 0th power, and f to the negative 5th. Well, that's going to turn into f to the 0 plus negative 5. Then we have g to the negative 7th times g to the 1st. So that's going to turn into g to the negative 7 plus 1. And then we can choose a different color for h. H to the 0 times h to the 0. So that would turn into h to the 0 plus 0. Well, 0 plus 0 is just going to give us 0. And all of this is over our denominator, which nothing can be combined yet. It's just going to be f to the 9th, g to the negative 1st, and h to the negative 4th. F to the 0 minus 5 is going to be f to the negative 5th. G to the negative 7 plus 1 is going to be g to the negative 6. And h to the 0th power is going to be h to the 0th power. And all of this is over f to the 9th, g to the negative 1st, and h to the negative 4th. This is now the quotient property of exponents, where we have to subtract the exponents. This is going to turn into f to the negative 5 minus 9. G to the negative 6 minus negative 1. And h to the 0 minus negative 4. Negative 5 minus 9 is going to be negative 14. So we're going to have f to the negative 14th power. G to the negative 6 minus negative 1. That double negative is going to become a positive. This is now g to the negative 5th. And then h, 0 minus negative 4, that double negative becomes a positive, and our final answer is going to be h to the 4th power. Now, our directions still tell us that we cannot have any negative exponents in our answer. So both the f to the negative 14th and then the g to the negative 5th are negatives. They need to move to the opposite side of the fraction bar, and they're going to become positive. So my final answer, that h had the positive 4 as an exponent, so it can stay on top. But that f had the negative exponent, so it had to move to the opposite side of the fraction bar and become positive. It's now going to be f raised to the positive 14th. And then that g to the negative 5th had to also move to the opposite side of the fraction bar, the bottom, and become positive. So it's going to be g to the positive 5th. And so that will bring us to the SMART score of 80, which is what we were looking for this unit, where we are practicing what does it mean and how do we work with exponents when our base